This episode is brought to you by Loom by Atlassian. Are you feeling stuck at work? Get your team unstuck with Loom video messaging and move work forward. Use Loom to simultaneously record both your screen and yourself to share a quick update, provide feedback, train a colleague, and everything in between. Plus, add Loom AI to your meetings for instant written notes and recordings. Try Loom today at Loom.com. That's LOOM.com.
Joining me now is, well, one of my favorite people in the entire world, Kimberly Guilfoyle. You remember Kimberly from Fox Television, but now she is the star of the Kimberly Guilfoyle Show on Rumble, where she is racking up enormous following. I just noticed, Kimberly, that a show we did earlier this week had 245,000 downloads and growing every single day. So you have mastered this new medium, and I'm very grateful that you can join us today on the Roger Stone Show.
Yeah, well, we love when you come on because all of the viewers and the listeners love Roger Stone, just like President Trump does. So it's always a pleasure to be on with you, my friend.
Now, people who don't know you don't know that you are not only an accomplished attorney, but you are also a prosecutor in Los Angeles and in San Francisco. That you had a extraordinary track record of convictions, that you were very famous for giving your summations, which I'm told were legendary, without a single note. So taking off your political hat for a moment and just looking at this as an attorney, what do you think of these recent charges that have been filed by Special Counsel Jack Smith against President Donald Trump in the District of Columbia?
Yeah, I mean, this is, it's a pile-on at this point, Roger. They're just doing anything they can because they're scared to death to be able to go up against this guy at the ballot box. They want to suppress his supporters, his donors, the enthusiasm, the momentum for President Trump and his candidacy. But I think, as you and I have discussed, it really is backfiring in spectacular fashion because Trump is up by 40 points in, many head-to-head contests with, in the primary against all these opponents. He's crushing Ron DeSantis, is way, way in the rearview mirror, choking on Trump's dust, literally. And Ron has only himself to blame for that, of course, in his the leeches that are the political consultants that have been bleeding him dry and giving him bad advice and ruining his political career. But people can be responsible, for their own choices. Meanwhile, Trump is just really crushing it. And I'm telling you, this is not just, the MAGA base, the America First people. This is people who are libertarians, independents, even Democrats that I talk to, as painful as it is to speak to them, they say, this is unbelievable what is happening in this country. And Jack Smith has no credibility whatsoever. We'll be expecting something now, in Georgia, too. We'll just have to wait for something else to come out against, the Bidens. And then, of course, that indictment will drop. It's always just like that. And people see through it. What I think these guys don't get is, as crazed as they are, and really it is true, we always used to talk about years ago, Trump derangement syndrome. They've all got it. And they don't realize that this base strongly supports President Trump, that these witch hunts are appalling, that the public is aghast over what is happening. And these don't have any credibility in and of themselves, factually speaking, legally speaking, but also the fact that they're just piling them on. It's sort of just overkill to the point where you're like, okay, nothing to see here, folks, and just another day, another Tuesday, and another indictment. And that's how it's ending up being. They're trying to just, preoccupy the president, bury him in legal bills and in motion work and in appearances and all of the above to try to, keep him off the trail. But it's just not working. And I think people have really expressed well-deserved disdain for Merrick Garland and for Jack Smith and, for Alvin Bragg and these people that are just, hell-bent with this bloodlust against, President Trump. But I think he's handled it well. And I'm curious to hear what you have to say about this, because the way he's approached it, I think, is very smart in the press, where he has said, look, they're after, me because they're after you, and it is an honor to stand and, take this and push through and persevere because he's doing it for us. And I think that resonates. I think it's good messaging.
I must say, I spoke to him on the phone this morning, and he was cool as a cucumber. I mean, it's just amazing the strength of this guy. A lesser man. Look, I've been in the crosshairs. It's a terrible, terrible thing, and I had some very dark days. Donald Trump doesn't seem to ever get depressed. He doesn't ever seem to. He can get angry because of the injustice of it, but I think that's understandable. But he's amazingly resolute. He's amazingly determined. He's amazingly optimistic. I mean, he's very even-keeled. It's the same Donald Trump that I knew 45 years ago. People say, has he changed? No, he really hasn't changed. He's an optimist. He's a warrior. He's got a great sense of humor. People don't know that. He's also a regular guy. In other words, the one thing Ron DeSantis, our governor here in Florida, and boy, nobody worked harder to put him across than you did, Kimberly. You stumped for that guy. And now he says, oh, he would have won without the support of Donald Trump. That's a fairy tale.
What a bold-faced lie. You know what I can't stand? I can't stand people who just lie outright. The numbers and the polling and where he was going to get smashed, like done, forget it, not a chance to win. And Trump stepped in and turned the whole thing around. And we put all our resources, all our time into being in the field with him, to campaign, to raise money, to do everything. And at least be honorable enough to tell the truth and say, yes, I'm very grateful for the support and for all the effort that went behind, my candidacy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So now he's saying he just did it all his own. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's really, and people who don't live in Florida really don't know the history of this, but Ron DeSantis was a fairly unknown congressman with a fairly indistinguished record. He was at 7% in the polls. The state agriculture commissioner, who was also a popular congressman, Adam Putnam, had the active support of every single one of the 67 county Republican chairmen in the state of Florida. Every single elected Republican in the state House and in the state Senate endorsed Adam Putnam. Every member of the Republican congressional delegation, with the exception of Matt Gaetz, endorsed Adam Putnam. Ron DeSantis was out of money, out of time, out of ideas. What the President Trump has said is absolutely true. Ron came to President Trump with tears in his eyes, begged for an endorsement, and because the president had seen Ron DeSantis on Fox and had heard him on conservative radio defending the president in the Russian collusion hoax, and the president was unaware of the fact that in 2016 that Ron DeSantis declined to even endorse Donald Trump. After he was the Republican nominee of the convention, he kept insisting that they were running independently. He never endorsed Trump, but he saw his main chance to elevate his profile. I like the fact that he defended the president on the Russian collusion hoax, but Donald Trump decided to give the guy a chance. And it really was like a thermonuclear bomb. I mean, DeSantis's candidacy took off like a rocket. He left Adam Putnam, who's not a bad guy, not an America First Republican, more of an establishment Republican, but he left him in the dust. And then he was locked in an extraordinarily difficult general election. Susie Wiles, who is now chief of staff for President Trump, one of the most capable women in American politics, came in to save Ron DeSantis, took over his general election campaign because Ron had been nominated really as a media phenomena, really solely on the endorsement of Donald Trump. She whipped that campaign into shape, but what really dragged Ron DeSantis over the finish line was the fact that Donald Trump changed his schedule in the last 2 weeks to stage 3 very successful rallies in strategic parts of the state for Ron DeSantis and literally dragged him over the finish line. Also, I think was crucial in the very, very close election of Rick Scott to the U.S. Senate. So people who don't live in Florida, they don't know that story. And early on, when I told people that Governor DeSantis was going to challenge President Trump, people told me that I was being ridiculous. Quit splitting the movement. Why are you dividing us? They said. Well, I'm a pretty shrewd judge of political character, in this case, personal character. If Ron DeSantis had simply waited his turn, he might have had some prospect to be president. I think, and the poll numbers reflect this, if this primary were held in Florida today, in Florida, where both men live, Donald Trump would beat Ron DeSantis by almost 30 points in his home state.
Unbelievable.
It is
unbelievable.
It is counterintuitive here, but it seems to be absolutely true. And Kimberly asked you to comment on this, that every time the president is indicted in one of these, I think, transparently politically motivated, fabricated indictments, he not only gets stronger, but he pulls in tens of thousands, even millions of dollars in small and tiny donations, small and middle-sized donations. Trump's has never, ever, since I have known him and since he got into politics, has never been the toast of the financial elite, never been the toast of Wall Street, never been the toast of the hedge fund managers, never been the candidate of the wealthy globalists, never been the candidate of the Republican establishment. His entire movement, our movement, the movement in which Kimberly Guilfoyle is one of the undisputed and outspoken leaders, the America First movement, is funded by the $100 donations, the $25 donations, the $50 donations. By my calculations, I actually think it is possible, given his reliance on big donors, many of whom are maxed out, and many of whom reportedly have now turned off the spigot, I think Ron DeSantis, at his current burn rate, could be out of money by October 1st. How's the fundraising going for President Trump?
Yeah. So I think that's totally right, because just, I used to be the national finance, chair for the president for the campaign. He's burning through money like a bonfire. It's out of control. And somebody said to me just recently, they expect that DeSantis will get out of the race and drop out in October. What do you think?
Well, he's going to be out of cash. I don't know how he backs down when his campaign slogan is never back down, but he's now at the point where he's hurting himself in his home state. He's really limiting his future. Look, this is a pretty big story today, but Laura Loomer discovered that Ron DeSantis sent $1 million to the Speaker of the House for a brand new super PAC that the Speaker formed days after the Florida State Legislature changed the state law, amended state election law, to allow Ron DeSantis to remain in state office, governor, while running for federal office. No other person in the state of Florida can do that. So if I were in the state legislature, let's say, and I wanted to run for Congress, I would have 10 days to resign from my state office before I could launch my federal candidacy. It is very clear to me that this smells to me like a bribe. $1 million, a lot of money, but it came from one of Ron DeSantis' political committees to the Speaker of the Florida House, and it's quid pro quo. I think it smells very bad. The governor's term then here in the state of Florida ends in 2026. He is term limited. He cannot run for a third term. The Florida state constitution does not allow it. There's not a Senate race in this state. There's one this year. Rick Scott is running for re-election. Rick Scott will be re-elected. Rick Scott, in my opinion, would be a great choice to replace Mitch McConnell as Republican leader in the Senate. That would be a great day, wouldn't it?
I'd love that, yeah.
I would too. It's time to ditch Mitch. Boy, President Trump called this one first. Ditch Mitch. Sounds like a bumper sticker to me. It is really, I think, now a situation where Ron will be out of money, and therefore the option of stopping now warehousing the money that he has in these super PACs, which presumably he still controls, putting it aside and waiting till 2028. I don't even think he can do that. I know a lot of people, a guy you know, I won't say his name, fellow you know, Kimberly, he gave $30,000 to the Friends of Ron DeSantis. He thought he was supporting the governor's reelection to the governorship, as I did. That money went to a super PAC called Friends of Ron DeSantis, which was a state entity. Then the name of that organization was changed to some totally generic name. And then $83 million from that fund was transferred to a super PAC that is designed to oppose Donald Trump and to support Ron DeSantis. Now, my friend in Palm Beach, who's a self-made businessman, retired, living the good life. His wife has some health problems. He's a great guy. He feels like he's been defrauded. He wants his $30,000 back. He's a lover and supporter of President Donald Trump. That's not what he gave Ron DeSantis the money for. Because the Federal Election Commission has a 3-3 split, you can never expect any adjudication of serious legal issues there. Ron may get away with having transferred that money. However, right now they're burning through it. If he were smart, he would drop out now, warehouse that money, which is perfectly legal, and use it for a future presidential campaign. But I think he has turned off so many in the MAGA base that I think he's endangered himself for the long term.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I'm going to tell you something. The new polls came out, and Make America Great Again PAC put out that Ron DeSantis drops to third place, Roger, in national GOP survey. So now he is behind Vivek Ramaswamy. I mean, my God. So the writing is on the wall here. He's burning cash. He's losing momentum. He's damaged himself politically. This was not smart at all. He should have just been gluing himself, Velcroing him to the MAGA magic of Donald Trump and prepared for 2028 to earn that endorsement to be the front runner. He did no such thing. And I think, and President Trump has said to me, that he's going to be too damaged to even run again in 2028. I think if he was smart and he was listening, or if he's listening to this show, he should drop out, like you're saying, take the advice of the great Roger Stone and get it together and try to rebuild reputation and standing and political goodwill and do the right thing.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to do that. I have predicted.
And maybe he has a chance. That's it.
I have predicted on this show, stick to my prediction, that at the end of his term, that Ron DeSantis' wife, Jill Casey DeSantis, will run for governor. I saw someplace this week, I think it was in Politico, where he openly mused about, I don't think she's interested, but if she ever did run, you'd have a very hard time beating her in a Republican primary. To me, that's a tacit admission that this idea is on the drawing boards, that I think the governor and his wife have become so addicted to the lifestyle, to the political adulation. Look, in 1976, when I was working for Ronald Reagan, I said this elsewhere on the show, when we got low on money, Ronald Reagan and his wife traveled commercial to our rallies. But the DeSantis' burned through millions of dollars for private jets when they should have been using that money for voter contact. I saw one of the officials at one of his super PACs say, we have $100 million and we have the best ground game. Ground game? How do you turn out votes for a candidate that many voters have never heard of, and the voters who have heard of him have a mixed review of? So I think he has done extraordinary damage to himself. Kimberly, you were one of the absolute stars at Fox News. That's where I first met you. You're still my favorite there of all time. We still have a few friends inside the building. This upcoming Fox debate, to which all the other Republicans have been invited, and I think they have all accepted. Do you think, just your personal opinion, do you think President Trump has anything to be gained by going to this debate?
Honestly, I really don't. I tend to agree with them. People, and everyone knows Trump isn't a guy who's like afraid or intimidated or scared. He's, a master strategist, and he's got great instincts. Okay. And as you have seen and the world has seen, he's great at these debates. They're unbelievable. The only thing that would be worth watching for Fox is if he, in fact, did debate. Otherwise, that whole thing is just going to be milquetoast and completely boring and ridiculous. So why would he get up there and debate any of these people? So they can try to pile on him or say one gotcha moment or whatever. No, I don't think there's anything to gain. And no offense, why are we even in this primary? I think it's kind of beneath him, to be honest. He's, the former president of the United States who did a phenomenal job, one of the best presidents we have ever had, ever by far in this country. And I think it's just beneath him. I think operate from a position of strength, let all those guys kill each other, and that's it.
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
How does PwC take your company to the leading edge? They bring the sharpest minds in tech to your team, so you can bring the ideas that will transform your business. They're passionate about your industry, so you can walk into any room with every advantage. And they're with you every step of the way, so you can know you're headed in the right direction. PwC builds for what's next, so you can get there now. Get started at pwc.com/us/leading edge.
This episode is brought to you by GMC. When you have 4 new tires, every drive feels fresh. Right now, buy 3 select tires and get 1 for just $1 during the GMC Certified Service Fresh Start Tire Event. Visit gmc.com/service offers or see dealer for full details. At participating U.S. GM dealers only. Highest or equal value tire will be $1. Offer ends 5/31/2025. Not available with other offers.
Yeah, I kind of liked his comment that he'd be watching the debate because he considered it like an audition to be
For
vice
VP,
president. Yeah, very,
Totally.
very, very clever.
I think that was very clever.
Look, I've
So it's
argued
good.
that...
I think we concur, right?
Yes, I totally agree. With one exception, Chris Christie's at 2% in the polls. I don't really know what he's doing. His entire campaign is based on hate and revenge. He has no plan for America. He couldn't even carry New Jersey today. His poll ratings in New Jersey are horrific. I saw they gave him 35 minutes on CNN the other night, in which all he did was attack Donald Trump and make it very clear that he's prepared to send as many billions more to Ukraine as they want, without any tether on that money. I mean, Rand Paul, who I really admire a lot, sponsors an amendment in the U.S. Senate after they pass these massive billion-dollar payouts to Ukraine for the war effort, asking that they put an inspector general in charge of that money to keep an eye on where it's going, and that's defeated under the leadership of Mitch McConnell. Why would any senator, Republican or Democrat, not want to know where our tax dollars are going, not want to know whether it's being skimmed off the top by crooked Ukrainian politicians, whether some of it's even making its way back to the United States? But Chris Christie, he's all in on the war in Ukraine. He visited Ukraine last week. That explains the food shortages, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, I'm also just very curious to see going forward, who remains to be smart about how they're handling everything with President Trump. I think Vivek, I hear a lot of people really like him and how he's handling it, that he's been very supportive to the president, as well as Tim Scott's been playing it smart. Not Chris Christie.
Yeah, that's just a nasty act of revenge. He's not a serious candidate. 2012 was his year. He took a pass. He then tried to get on the ticket with Mitt Romney. That didn't work. Then he wanted to get on the ticket with Donald Trump. I'd like to remind people Had that happened and the George Washington Bridge scandal broke that October, he would have scuttled the entire ticket. His lawyer in that, by the way, Christopher Wray, your current FBI director, represented Chris Christie in the George Washington Bridge closing scandal. Interesting little factoid there. I'm not even sure why he's running. Tim Scott really has impressed me, I must say. And this has happened traditionally in American politics, people who realize that sometimes you have to run for president more than one time to get nominated. Some realize that you run for president to position yourself for the ticket. And I don't know this to be the case, but if that is what Tim Scott has in mind, I think he's handling himself extraordinarily well.
I think so too, by the way. He's being a class act. People like him. You don't hear anybody trashing or being upset with him. He's not angering the base because Trump's followers and the base, they have a long memory for this. And, people say, oh, well, what percentage of, did you really find out what percentage of the Republican, voters and base is really Trump's base? How would anyone figure that out? I go, what are you talking about? Look at the Republican primary and how many people are voting and supporting Trump in the polls. Like, come on, he's running away with it. That's how many. It's not Mitch McConnell's party, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. Tell me your impression of the candidacy of Nikki Haley. It's another one I can't figure out, but maybe you have some insights.
I don't know. She was like the first in to go. I mean, I think no one's even talking about her. I think she's largely, irrelevant. But I will tell you this, President Trump is not picking her.
I would think not.
Yeah, he has no interest in that whatsoever.
Do you have it's very, very early. People ask me this constantly. Who will Trump take for vice president? First of all, implicit in that question is a recognition that Trump will be the Republican nominee. I think that is absolutely true. All he needs is one more indictment and he'll lock it up, because it is counterintuitive. Every time there's more bad news in Biden land, whether it is cocaine found at the White House or evidence of wires directly from the Ukrainian energy company to Joe and Hunter Biden. By the way, Andrea Mitchell of NBC says these are unfounded. Rumors of corruption by the Bidens, that's unfounded. Evidently, she can't read. It's really hard to understand. But it is interesting. It's kind of a tit for tat thing. Every time there is any inkling of new revelations about the epic corruption of the Bidens, we're talking about extortion, we're talking about bribery, we're talking about money laundering, we're talking about influence peddling, we're talking about multi-million-dollar payments from Ukraine, from China, from Russia, from Romania. Every time there is new breaking news, well, don't look over there, folks. Look over here. It's a new indictment of Donald Trump. I've looked extensively at this Georgia phone call. I've listened to the entire audio. I've read the entire transcript. It's tedious, by the way. It is absolutely clear that Donald Trump did nothing whatsoever wrong. He didn't tell the Secretary of State to go out and find or manufacture, 11,870 ballots, I think it is. He told the Secretary of State, you have already inadvertently counted that number of illegal ballots. And he breaks it down. Convicted felons, people who are deceased, people who are no longer live in the state. But they have bastardized this. They have misrepresented it to the American people. I think that which does not kill Donald Trump merely makes him stronger.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And I think if they're being honest, they didn't know that it would have these unintended consequences that have actually just served to propel his candidacy, his policies, the momentum, the enthusiasm. And they weren't counting on this. And like you and I have discussed before, their plan was, okay, let's go ahead and do this and we'll jump in. I think DeSantis thought that's what he was going to do and that Trump was going to get crippled by legal problems, lawfare, indictments, the globalists and the uniparty to the point where he was going to have to drop out or that his numbers would fall dramatically. None of that has happened. So break all your big plans, folks, because it backfired.
All right, we're out of time. Kimberly, tell people where folks can see the Kimberly Guilfoyle show every day.
All right, so you can see my show, download the Rumble app, and subscribe to my channel and to my friend Roger Stone and my sweetheart Donald Trump Jr. I am on every Monday and Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern live. And it's a great show. Make sure you do it. Check it out and tell your friends about it. We have fabulous guests like the one and only, the greatest, Roger Stone on there. And you'll learn a lot. You'll get the inside stuff because you're not going to get it from the mainstream media. That's for sure. But we'll tell you the truth and give you the facts.
All right. This has been the Roger Stone, Kimberly Guilfoyle Mutual Admiration Society meeting. Kimberly Guilfoyle, thank you so much for joining us on the Roger Stone Show here at WABC Radio.
My pleasure. You're the best.